In today's video, we're going to talk about the Panasonic GH6. We're going to talk about how it feels like it's been abandoned over the last few months when it comes to firmware upgrades. We're going to talk about what I would like to see in a future firmware upgrade. And then maybe at the end, we'll talk about what the next version of this beast would have to keep it relevant up against the G9 Mark II. Let's get into it. Now, if you're already subscribed, odds are you've seen my Panasonic S5 Mark II and X firmware upgrade video. And if you missed that, I'll link it down in the description. Now, the cool thing about that update is it gave the S5 Mark II and X a lot of the same great features found in the G9 Mark II. The G9 Mark II feels like a lot more of an advanced camera currently than the GH6 in most ways. Now, while there's some limitations with its heat management compared to the GH6 and a few other great features found on this camera, the GH6 actually feels older now, which is kind of depressing. I love the body on this camera a lot. It's one of the best I've got or ever used for that matter, but the G9 Mark II really took all of the same great video and photographic features out of this camera and then just improved on them. And we're going to talk about what I want to see coming right up. The first new upgrade I'd love to see come to the GH6 is, of course, the E-stabilization mode. The GH6 is already a great handheld camera. It's arguably still one of the best, but the E-stabilization feature found in the G9 Mark II and now in the S5 Mark II and X take all of this handheld stuff to the next level. It's gotten to the point now where I'm going to sell my gimbals, except for one, because I want a small one just in case I'm using it with a different camera system. But the in-body image stabilization was already great in the GH6, and this E-stabilization would take that to the next level. The second thing I'd love to see come to the GH6 is the real-time LUT feature, and this allows you to bake in a LUT at the time of filming. I'm kind of surprised this hasn't been pushed through in a firmware update. It's almost midway into 2024, and we still don't have it, which is odd. Ideally, I would have loved to have seen this update come through at the time of the S5 Mark II launch, which hasn't happened. So hopefully Panasonic can do it. I don't know if there's technical limitations on why this camera hasn't got it yet or whatever, but I'm assuming based on the fact this can shoot 4K at 120 frames per second, it's more than capable of being able to do that feature. If the G9 Mark II can do it and the S5 Mark II and X can do it, hopefully it comes to the GH6. Now, whether you're a photographer or videographer, this next thing I'd love to see come to the GH6 would be a no-brainer, and you're looking at it right now. This is the Leica monochrome picture profile only found in the G9 Mark II. Now, this is great for both photos and video if you want to shoot in black and white and kind of get a high contrast look. There's no other camera in the range currently with this particular picture profile, so this is another thing I'd like to see added to the GH6. For those wondering about autofocus, the G9 Mark II was Panasonic's first micro four thirds phase detection autofocus camera, and it's why I'm shooting with it outside instead of a contrast DFD camera. Once you go phase detect, it's hard to go back. Now that Panasonic finally went phase detect, I don't think we're going to see too many contrast DFD autofocus firmware updates. There's just no point. It's never worked anywhere near as well as phase detect, and Panasonic's first phase detection camera was one of the best on the market when it came to autofocus, and it's only going to get refined from here. So unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see too many more upgrades to contrast DFD. Being that most people who bought a GH6 were most likely video shooters, and that's how they market that particular camera, it's interesting that we haven't got any proxy support either. So this is another thing I would love to see added. Now, this only came to the S5 Mark II and X in the recent firmware update a few weeks ago as of posting this video, but this is a no-brainer for GH6 shooters who want a lower resolution file that might make their editing experience a lot easier. And then you've got your high resolution files also recorded, so it just makes that entire process easier. I've seen a lot of people ask and request this in the Lumix live streams and so forth, so it'd be interesting to see whether or not they bring that to the GH6. All right, I've shot most of this video with this Hader variable ND filter, and I've tried my best to get the most out of the blue skies and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just shooting this in the natural picture profile on the most part on the G9 Mark II, minus that black and white spot. So let us know what you think of the image quality, the autofocus, and all that kind of stuff so far. This is the 10 to 25mm f1.7 zoom lens, which I've not reviewed yet. So stay tuned for that if you're a micro four thirds shooter. If you're enjoying the video, leave a thumbs up, all that kind of stuff. I'm getting a little sunburnt, I can feel it, even though we're on our way into winter. So I'm gonna find somewhere a little bit more shady or head back to the studio. I've tidied up my studio finally, so maybe that'll be fun. Anyway, I'll see what I can find on the way home. All right, welcome to the new, more organized, less cluttered set here. I hope you like it. This is my set. It's actually still functional. I can pull things off as I need it, but basically the lighting in here should look a lot better. I've gotten rid of all the multicolored LED lights with the exception of the one behind me, just adding a little bit of blue to the wall. And that's it. I just wanted to make it look a little bit more tidy for my own sake. But anyway, I just had a look at the footage and there was definitely some weird color casting going on in the sky. It's nothing to do with the lens, nothing to do with the camera. It's to do with my skill level and this Hader Pro 2 circular polarizer and variable ND. Now, when you're working with these things on a tighter focal length, it's fine, but on those 10mm shots, I noticed there was quite a bit of weird color casting going on in the sky. These aren't designed for super wide angle lenses, and that's what I was using, but it was worth a shot. I'm going to experiment around a little bit more over the course of this year with different gear just to see what kind of results we get. The natural picture profile overall looks pretty great on the G9 Mark II, but yeah, definitely some weird stuff going on if you're using this particular unit on a wide angle lens, but I love that for my full frame system, so it's awesome. All right, now we're going to talk a little bit more about the GH6 and what I would like to see on the next version of this camera. Now, ideally, I wouldn't like much changed. I know that might shock you, but I actually really love the camera body. While it's large, it's definitely not a deal breaker for everybody. I would love to see the battery life increase because this doesn't have the best battery life out there, even compared to the G9 Mark II. The GH6 runtime isn't exceptional. I would just like to see either a high capacity battery available at some point, or just, of course, better optimization of that particular battery. Secondly, I'd love to see the GH6 still support this flip around and flip up screen here. You get these two different angles, and if you're working behind the camera, I love it. It's just awesome. You get this really great ergonomic way of working where you're not always looking off to the side. It's just a small thing, but I really like it. I think photographers also appreciate this type of design as well because you can flip it up and down, and however you want to use it, it's really ergonomic and just very functional. The GH6 also has active cooling, and I'm a big fan of active cooling. Basically, all of my cameras, except for one, the G9 Mark II, has active cooling, and I rely on that so much, especially for long duration recordings or shooting out in the field. Up next, I'm going to talk about the two things that I would love to see come to a brand new GH6. This is from a hardware perspective. So I love the body on this, the tally lamps, all that kind of stuff. The grip feels amazing. It's just an awesome camera. But I would love to see matching card slots. You know, currently there's a CF Express Type B card slot and a UHS 2. I would like to see two matching UHS 2s or two matching CF Express Type B card slots. Either way, it's fine. I would just like to have matching media. It saves you having to bring two different types of media. Now, if you're someone who likes to shoot with an external hard drive, this is where I think, you know, you could get away with two internal UHS 2 card slots as opposed to the CF Express Type B. They're cheaper, it's easier. And then if you already have a workflow that incorporates ProRes and you're recording to an external hard drive, are you using the CF Express Type B card slot? So let us know. If you're a photographer though, I can see an advantage to it, but yeah, I'm a video guy, so that's what I'm going to talk about. And lastly, I would love to see a command dial change just ever so slightly. So this locking mechanism that they've got on here is great. There's 4 custom modes you can choose from. Now, everyone's shooting situation is different, so let me know if this is a deal breaker for you or not. But variable frame rate mode allows you to set a speed of the frame rate within the camera. It's a really convoluted system that Panasonic has stuck to for many years now, except for on their new cameras where you've got an S&Q dial, and it's really easy to dial in whatever frame rate you want. I would love to see the first C1 replaced with S&Q, and then I would like to see C1, C2, and C3. And then that's it. And then all of the other custom modes you can just pull in from the digital menu within the camera. I just think this would be a no-brainer. Maybe they can still have a variable frame rate mode for folks who want to dial it in the old way, but an S&Q option on the command dial would be a no-brainer. All right, editing Shane here. I just realized that I didn't touch on any of the new resolutions I'd like to see in GH6 Mark II. And that's kind of because I think the GH6 is more than capable. You know, if you need 6K at 120 frames per second, whatever the case is, that's totally cool. Would I like to see 4K at 180 frames per second? Yes, but 120 is still more than enough. So that's just my thoughts. Let us know if you need higher resolutions. Let's wrap this video up. So if you've got a GH6, let us know what firmware features you would like to see come to the camera, and hopefully it can put some pressure on Panasonic to update this camera sometime in 2024. Again, this is such a powerful camera, but as mostly a content creator using Micro Four Thirds, the G9 Mark II makes doing this a lot easier, right? I'm still shooting with it in the studio. I've got great autofocus. I don't have to think twice about it. So that said though, the GH6 is still one of the most underrated cameras on the market. And anytime I'm shooting with my manual focus lens like the Sirui or the anamorphic lenses, I'm taking the GH6. Thanks for watching.